Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deb Flashenberg. Welcome to Yoga, Birth, Babies, a podcast produced by Prenatal Yoga Center. We will be diving into everything prenatal yoga, birth, and baby related, hoping to inspire, educate, and empower you through your journey into motherhood. Thank you for listening. Hi, I'm Deb Flashenberg. I am your host of Yoga Birth Babies, and today we are doing a community birth story. This one is really special to me. So when things started to go online back in March, I had a student pop up, Lina. And she continued to come to class pretty much every day. And I watched her go through a lot of her pregnancy for about 3.5 months. And she was there literally 4 or 5 times a week. And even though we were on Zoom and we never met face to face, I felt like I got to know her and I really like her. So when she had her baby, I thought, all right, I want a community birth story. I want to hear the perspective of birthing during COVID. She had a home birth. I wanted to hear about that. So this is Lina's birth story. And I'll just give you a little bit about her. So Lina is the proud new mother of her daughter, Ava. She's a native New Yorker and 5th-generation Chinese American. She was born and raised in Manhattan's Chinatown. After 12 years away, she found her way back to New York in 2016, where she met her husband. Professionally, Lina works at Google, focusing on strategy development and emerging products. In her free time, you can find her working weekend shifts at her family's 95-year-old porcelain shop. Oh, I got to get down there when I get back into the city. Adventuring outdoors with her husband or training for her next weightlifting competition. I'm telling you, Lina's really, really fantastic. And she's got such a great outlook on birth. She had a fantastic birth, and some of the ways she describes how her body opened during birth is just so poetic and beautiful. So I think you're going to really enjoy that. Before we get to that conversation, I want to give a shout out. People are leaving just the most wonderful reviews. This one came from Apple Podcast. It says, "My go-to. I am a full-time mom, and this has been my go-to podcast for advice, direction, and calm. I so appreciate Deb's positive and soothing voice. Thank you." This woman clearly was meant to be a gifted podcaster and yoga teacher, and the variety of topics and guests she brings on. It's been so helpful as I navigate my growing belly and worried mind throughout my pregnancy to have tools and insight that are so needed. Thank you. Well, thank you. I really appreciate your time and effort. And if someone hasn't left a rating or review, please go and do so. It helps people find the podcast. Last few little comments. Remember, as I mentioned, I met Lina online. We have all our classes online. We've got our prenatal yoga 7 days a week live stream and re-releases. We've got postnatal. We've got baby and me. We've got childbirth education, because no matter what's going on in the world, you're still going to have that baby. We still need to support you. Breastfeeding, caring for a newborn, all of that is available online. So check that out. And since the studio is not open yet, and we have no idea when it's going to open in New York City, we do have a donation button, so feel free to head over to Prenatal Yoga Center and leave a donation. We are also setting up a donation or scholarship for our teacher trainings, which have just burst open. I can't believe now that they're online, it is amazing to have so many people from all over being able to attend. But we do have a special scholarship program set up for PYC scholarship. So if you are a Black, Indigenous person of color, we want you to be part of this. We know that's an underserved population, and we really want you to be part of our teacher training. So check that out. We have a donation for that. So if you want to support that, please head to our website and leave a donation for that, because we're really excited to start this scholarship. All right, I think I said everything. Oh, last thing. Teacher training, as I mentioned, first opened. The early fall is full with a wait list, a long, lengthy wait list. The next one in November and December, people are already signing up. I think we have about 5 spots already taken out of 15. So sign up. And I only announced that maybe 2 weeks ago. All right, so sign up. And if you want to be part of our newsletter, go to our website. That way you can be in touch with everything. All right, I know I've talked enough. Now we want to hear Lina talk. So we're going to take a super quick break. When we come back, please enjoy my conversation with Lina.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Lina, I am so excited to speak with you. I have missed seeing you in class. Yay, I'm so glad you're going to share your birth story.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Thanks, Deb. I very much miss class and seeing everybody daily as well.
It's been kind of crazy because there's a small group of you guys that immediately jumped into class that have now given birth. In the last couple of weeks, I think you were the first, and Jen went soon thereafter. And Melissa, I just got an email this morning, had her baby. And what I can say is I'm so proud that all of you guys had really functional births. Like, I'm incredibly proud, slightly jealous, because as my son's birthday is on Saturday, I was talking to my husband this morning. I'm like, well, I started on the 9th and had him on the 11th. And I get all these emails from you guys. And I'm like, I wish I had their births, but I'm thrilled that I could support you through it. So thank you for sharing your story.
Well, it's a testament, I think, to, the teaching and the methodology of PYC, and also just the awareness and consciousness that you bring to everybody in class about our bodies, really.
Well, it's from that challenge that the PYC methodology was born. So I guess that works. So, all right, I feel like I know you because I had seen you, I know, like 4 or 5 times a week, which was really a joy. You always brought such calmness, even when you would complain something hurts. You didn't really complain. You were just like, I don't know, you just have a calmness that I'm like, I like her. I like that person. And then it also cracked me up when you're like, yeah, my dad brought over a bolster. I'm ready. And I'm like, I like this lady. All right. So I feel like I know you a bit. If you could just give me a little bit about your background so that the community understands who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I am now a proud mom of a 3-week-old daughter. My daughter, Ava, was born on June 15th. And so that's first and foremost what's been my primary, if you want to call it, title. But I'm a New York City native, a 5th-generation Chinese American that grew up in Chinatown in Manhattan. Super proud of our New York roots. My entire family is all still here in New York. And we're here to stay. So through thick and thin, even through COVID, it's been a challenge, I do have to say, but it's been great to see the city being so resilient and also sticking to their guns on a lot of the precautionary measures that we're taking to keep everybody safe.
Let's just take a moment to honor that. Yay for New York.
Yay for New York,
even though I was not born there, I moved there soon after, literally days after I graduated college, and just left a couple years ago, but I still feel like a New Yorker at heart. I was there for 9/11. I know you were too. And to see the resilience it's something pretty amazing.
Yeah. I don't think that people necessarily correlate community with New York City, but there are definitely deep roots and strong communities and pockets of the city, whether it be with Prenatal Yoga Center, in Chinatown and others. I think New Yorkers really stick together through thick and thin. So proud to say that I'm from here, still here, currently living in Brooklyn with my husband and my daughter. We're super big fans of enjoying the outdoors. So that's something that we're going to try to introduce to Ava when we can. We do a lot of backcountry camping and scuba diving and
You
rock
do scuba
climbing and
diving?
stuff
Oh,
like
I
that.
used to do that
Yeah,
too. It's one of the most, I found it one of the most amazing things. It felt like flying, like you're
absolutely.
horizontal moving. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely.
Oh, I knew that's the reason I liked you.
Also, yeah, absolutely. And requires a lot of like body awareness
Yes.
too. So I think that just goes in the vein of everything that we'll be talking about today.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing about yourself. I know a bit about your birth story. And before we get to the details, how about we just talk a little bit about what influenced your birth choices?
Absolutely. I would say that I'm on the later end of some of my friends who have been pregnant and have had children and started making, or their family making journeys. So a lot of the informal research I did was just talking to them about what their experiences were like and trying to put myself in their shoes to see if I would be comfortable in the same situations. I have, or a majority of all of my friends have had hospital births, with the exception of one who has had a home birth. And when my friend who had a home birth went through that process, I was fascinated, primarily because it harkened back to a time where I was like 10 or 11 years old. And my mom had a yoga instructor that she was very close with, and we went to visit her in Brooklyn. Oh God, that was decades ago. But she had had a home birth at that point in time. So I'm now realizing and chatting with you that, you know, home birth has been in my consciousness since I was a kid, actually. And then kind of was revisited when my friend gave birth at home. So in putting myself in friends' shoes who had hospital births, and then hearing about what a home birth was like and how different the experiences were in comparison, I kind of went down that path in terms of research and exploration. I also have two very close friends who are midwives and practicing in New York City, not in their own practice, but in hospitals as well. And really just started digging deeper into what that experience might be like and what it could be like. And that kind of was just a launching pad into a depth of reading and watching documentaries and kind of getting myself up to speed on what this could look like, acknowledging the risks. I have a very close friend who is an anesthesiologist who was vehemently against my home birth choice. She was very respectful in bringing up her opinions, and even later in the game, but just, you know, things to consider in terms of risks and precautions. So I think I had a fairly, you know, well-rounded group of people who, you know, had opinions and stories to share, and they shared those respectfully. And from there, I kind of made my choices from that.
I think one of the things that we talk about in class, a couple of things that I want to kind of go over from what you said. First of all, thank you for sharing, is that it's really important to think where you feel safest. And if you feel safest not in a hospital, then you think about a home birth. And then the other side is someone may hear that, like your friend that's an anesthesiologist, that would not be her choice because that's not where she feels safest. So I think that's when someone thinks about where, it's where you're going to feel, because we know when you feel safest, your body can really go with the hormones that are needed. If you're feeling apprehension, your body's going to seize up. And then I know that you and I also talked about the contingency plan, you know, not saying, you know, like the idea is it could start at home, but you don't know where it's going to end. Like, I always talked about, because I had two home births, and I would say, like, we're planning on a home birth, but even during it, I wasn't sure it would finish at home. Now, I know yours were your first, no, first is only one so far, but I'm already having you have a second kid. I want you back in class that quickly. But, you know, it was pretty quick, so we can talk about that. But before we get to that, how did you prepare? Because it sounds like you did a lot of research and like deep thinking about where you want to give birth. And once you made that choice, How did you get yourself ready for the experience, as ready as one could be?
Yeah. It's funny, like, to think back on what I did to ready myself. I think I gave myself like a year and a half to 2 year runway. So it was like, I, very much thought about home birth as being, my first choice. And as anybody does in going through a fertility journey, you start prepping your body for something that you're hoping to happen. So I just, like, very brief little bit of background. Like, I, like many American women, was on birth control since I was probably about 20 years old. I'm currently 33, so that's at least 12 to 13 years of being on birth control. And so I had some friends who struggled with infertility and also had that lens on and wanted to prepare myself if in case this were to happen to me, how would I prepare mentally and also physically. So I found an acupuncturist who specialized in fertility treatments as soon as I got off birth control, because I had prepared myself for, maybe having a long journey to get pregnant, and really wanted to make sure that the house was in order so that, my hormones would come back in terms of, like, after birth control being, on a regular cycle. That was one of my bigger concerns. I hadn't had my period naturally for over a decade. And so that was one thing that was one of my, primary goals, just to get my period once a month regularly. And so I was doing acupuncture just to regulate my periods for about a year before we even started trying. And that was kind of where a lot of my research in terms of being in tune with my body, what was happening with my body, and things to do to continue to encourage the body to get on a regular menstrual cycle. That was my first kind of foray into research and preparation. And then the second was, I know I mentioned, like, I was reading a lot, I was watching a lot of documentaries, but my doula was a really big resource in terms of preparation as well. I know that's jumping a big sort of timeline. But acupuncture first, being in tune with my body, preparing for and, like, immersing myself in actually a lot of podcasts. There's one called The Longest Shortest Time with Hillary Frank.
I love that one. I can't believe it's over.
Yeah.
I felt a little abandoned.
Absolutely. I loved Andrea Salenzi because she was also, I followed her podcast prior to her becoming the host to Longest Shortest Time, but really immersing myself in, like, parenting challenges and fertility challenges just to kind of, like, get in a headspace of, like, nothing generally goes as planned. So be ready for all of the potential outcomes. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the biggest shift in mindset I had, kind of surrendering to, what my body would do, given all the things that I was trying to mentally and psychologically prepare for.
What a really healthy outlook on all this. I'm
telling you, I listened to The Longest Shortest Time for probably over a year. I wasn't pregnant. Like, I wasn't trying to get pregnant, but, like, I really wanted to know what it was like so I wouldn't be, like, super shocked by anything that would come my way. So if you think about it strategically, like, look at all of the potential outcomes and prepare for all of them before, like, committing that, like, I'm going to do X, Y, or Z, and I really want it to happen this way, and I'm going to pray and hope it and think it will. I think that kind of just pigeonholes you into being disappointed.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. All right. I want now let's go into your birth story. We're going to take a super quick break and let's unpack your birth story. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18 plus.
Brighten up your space and save big money at Menards. Accent any area with Patriot lighting. From under-cabinet lighting to string lights, tape lights, and more. We've got a great selection of accent lighting options. Whether you're looking to light up the yard for your next get-together or add a splash of color to your gaming setup, Patriot Lighting has it all. Explore our lighting options and other great deals now at Menards and on Menards.com.
Save big money at Menards.
Okay, so you did an amazing job thinking about what you felt safest with. You picked your team, you prepared. So lay the whole thing out for me.
Absolutely. One of the things I forgot to mention in my preparation for my birth was making sure that I was comfortable with everybody that I chose to be surrounded by at a very vulnerable period of time, not only in, prenatal visits, but also what I couldn't imagine then, but during labor, which is the most vulnerable time that I've ever felt, being in, physically, emotionally, everything. Your body just totally opens up. So building your birth posse, as you like to reference it as, but really building a team of women that I was confident and comfortable with was huge in preparing for my birth. I loved my midwife. I really respected and loved my doula. And the birth story you'll hear, I didn't really get to spend too much time with her. But I got to meet all of my midwife's assistants to know who might be there when they were on call. She had 3. I got to meet them all and have conversations with them and to get comfortable with them. And then also, obviously, my husband. I wanted my husband to be as prepared as I was for birth. Granted, I mentioned I gave myself a year plus runway. He probably had the 9 months leading up to it. But he was a huge support as well. Deb, I saw you the day that my water broke and was just waiting for labor to start. My water broke on a Monday morning at 3 a.m. It was the traditional gush that all of your textbooks or your your birth preparation classes kind of describe. I woke my husband up. I said, I think my water broke. And he's like, okay, how do you feel? And we were kind of just in this space of checking in with my body. Literally 3 a.m. that happened. I was able to fall right back to sleep, and I slept until 8:30 or 8:30 the next morning and joined Deb in her prenatal yoga class.
Did you do coffee chat?
Oh, I did do coffee chat. I wanted to double check with you to see what you thought about nothing happening for those 5.5 hours.
Because that's right. Because then there was so we did coffee chat, and then there was that 15 minutes where I'm like, wait a minute, she's not in class. What happened?
Yeah, between the end of coffee chat and the start of class at 10, I was talking to my midwife, who I had texted with earlier that morning. But she, expressed, not concern, but that she, in precautionary measures or in taking precautionary measures, she thought that this could be what they call PROM, or the premature rupture of membranes, because nothing had happened for at that point 7 hours, and had suggested or prescribed a sonogram and a no stress test, which I went to get after class with you. I do have to say that class helped put me into an even more calming space. Again, I talk about checking in with my body all the time, but I really do think, or for me, body awareness is kind of how I read, how I'm feeling. Do I have stress in my shoulders? Are my hips feeling tight? Things that we talk about every day in class. But that really helped me get me in kind of a Zen zone. Like I was in my normal routine. I felt good. I was able to, find comfortable positions, and it was kind of like, your real tryout or your real preparation for labor. Oh, right. Getting on all fours, circling my hips, using my voice, understanding my breath were all great reminders because, presumably like labor was imminent. After class, I ended up getting that sonogram, the no stress test. They confirmed that the amniotic fluid levels were great and healthy for the baby. The no stress test confirmed that the baby had great movement, but in fact, I was not experiencing contractions. And that was at probably 2 p.m. in the afternoon. We came home. My midwife came by to check on me. And to check to see if I was dilated. So that was my first experience with any vaginal exam. She did ask me before if I was comfortable with that. I said yes very vehemently because I wanted to know like if I was progressing and how far. At 4 p.m., I was 1 centimeter and I was 80% effaced. And she was like, if nothing happens tomorrow, I really think you should get another sonogram and another no stress test. And I was like, what do you mean if nothing happens by tomorrow? Shouldn't something happen like in the next 12 hours? And she was like, not necessarily, early labor, this whole process could take up to 54 hours. And in my mind, I was like, 54 hours? This has really got me on the edge of my seat. My water broke, nothing happened. If I had to wait 54 hours for anything to happen, I probably wouldn't leave my apartment. Not that that would be any different from your general quarantine routine. But having that uncertainty kind of made me feel like I was in for the long haul. She had left at 4:30, and by 5:30 p.m., I was talking to my husband, and I was saying, I think I'm having cramps because, I'm feeling a little bit of tightness in my lower abdomen, and I can't really find a comfortable position to lay in. I was on the floor with my blocks and my bolster, trying to find that, really comfy side-lying position that, I always found in class, and it was really just not doing it for me at that point in time. And so that was at 5:30. I proceeded to get on all fours and do hip circles. I could not I couldn't keep my body loose. I couldn't move freely in a circular motion to find any relief. Yet for some reason, I was still convinced that I was only experiencing cramps.
Were they coming every few minutes?
They were just constant. I was like, why can't I find a comfortable position? This works every time in yoga. Why is this not working now? And for some reason, in all the research that I had done, I was under the impression that contractions were supposed to be felt in your full torso, from top to bottom. And I was just, so convinced that that's what a contraction felt like. Not only that, but a lot of birth classes tell you, and things that you read, you don't want to call a false alarm or call the alarm or pull the alarm too early. Mm-hmm. I was like, I didn't want to be this. My husband and I think both didn't want to be that couple that was like, you need to come now, and then nothing had happened. But because the midwife was here early, only an hour and a half earlier, and I was only 1 centimeter dilated, I was like, this can't be it. Fast forward 15 minutes, and I was super vocal, really channeling that mantra
open throat,
that
open
he
vagina.
Taught us: open throat, open vagina.
I need to get T-shirts made of that.
Seriously, that was what was going through my head because I was using all the tools. I was trying to find the side-lying position, trying to be on all fours. At that point, open throat, open vagina was the only thing that was kind of working, in the sense that I was able to find my breath and release in some regard. But time seemed to freeze, and I didn't know what was happening. But Steven, my husband, had called the midwife and the doula probably around 6:30 because he was like, okay, these are not cramps anymore, or these, I don't know what you're talking about. These aren't cramps because you can't move and you sound like,
A touch
I don't know, very
uncomfortable.
guttural. Yeah, very guttural. Banu, my doula, had heard what I sounded like on the phone at that point. It was 6:30. She's like, that's active labor. You should try to get Lina in the tub, in your bathtub, and run warm water on her back. It'll help her find relief. It took me 15 minutes to get from the bedroom to the bathroom because I was just in like writhing discomfort. And we couldn't find a break in between the waves of what were obviously contractions. So by the time I got to the tub, the warm water on the back of my lower back felt great for 5 minutes maybe. And then it just wasn't doing the trick. So, in our birthing class, Stephen learned a few massage techniques. So putting pressure on my lower sacrum and pushing, those,
The hip points.
hip points together. That worked for maybe another 5 minutes. And then I honestly I wouldn't be able to tell you how much time had passed, but, I was like grabbing the edge of the bathtub, just like very vocal, with no breaks. Stephen's like, tell me when a contraction starts. I was like, I can't talk. I can't tell. I don't even know what's happening right now. Because it was so intense and so much sensation, I really couldn't discern the start or the end of a contraction. I couldn't even discern like if there was any relief because, my vocal reactions were like very loud and guttural. But Stephen describes, the air quotes relief or the 30 seconds in between, each of them, like my voice going much lower. And I guess that was kind of like the valleys between the peaks. Fast forward again.
When did your midwife get there?
Yeah. Fast
Just
forward.
curious.
We were in the tub and I was like, Stephen, I think it's just going to be you and I. I didn't say it that calmly. But I was like, at this point, like, it's just you and me. I feel pressure everywhere that they tell you feel pressure when you're going to have to push. And so at that point, my midwife got here at 7:30, helped move me from the bathroom to the bed to a sideline position. When she arrived at 7:30, I was 7 centimeters. So from 4 p.m. at 1 centimeter to 7:30, 7 centimeters. At 8 p.m., she told me I was 9.5 centimeters. At 8:05, my doula showed up.
Can I just take a beat and acknowledge that? Because we talk a lot about vaginal exams. Your cervix is not a crystal ball because a lot of people would hear 1 centimeter, 80% and kind of be bummed and think it could take forever. But literally hours later, you're in full labor then having your baby. So exactly. I love that example of it's not textbook.
It really wasn't textbook. The big things that were running through my head were something I learned in our birth class, or one of the questions like our instructor asked was, have you and your partner discussed what you might do in early labor? Because, you'll be experiencing contractions that are fewer or shorter and farther between. You can still like talk through them, laugh through them. She even showed a video of a woman in early labor. And we then spent a decent amount of time like discussing activities that we would do. Like she suggested baking a birthday cake for our baby. My husband and I were talking about like doing a puzzle. I had a 1,000-piece puzzle, like get ready to like, relaxingly get through before my baby was born. And honestly, what was running through my head was like, this is not what they told me it was going to be.
They lied.
This early labor, this, all of the stuff that seemed a little bit more like relaxed before active labor didn't happen. I went straight into active labor, and I feel like transition came extremely fast because by the time 8 p.m. came, the doula had arrived. I was already pushing and the baby was crowning. I was sideline on my bed, and she was born at 8:22. But what I do have to share is that of all of the intense sensations that I did experience in that short period of time, the pushing part was the easiest part because active labor was nobody really tells you what active labor feels like, but we did so much pelvic floor exercise and like tapping into like how to make your pelvic floor feel like a jellyfish or like, engage it and release it. And that is exactly what I did every day and exactly what pushing felt like.
I'm so glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear
to the preparation.
Thank you. I'm really glad to hear that you were able to be in touch with your body and know that your body and baby were working together and not have a fear about what's happening. That's a really big deal.
I think the fact that I was in a place that I was comfortable with, surrounded by people who I was also comfortable with. And trust. And also having all the tools in my toolbox and being in tune with my body. The pushing is really like all that ab work that we discussed, and then the relaxation or like the relaxation is just letting the baby come back up and then pushing a little more to really get everything ready to be fully stretched.
That is true. And I want to touch on something you're saying, that one of the main reasons besides I love chatting with you, have you tell your birth story is when you had emailed me, I could tell those few hours were wet and wild and crazy and intense. And oftentimes we hear just like the pain of labor, but you can be in great pain and not be suffering, in a sense that you had a team that you trusted to support you. You could be vulnerable in front of them. You felt safe. And even though you were incredibly uncomfortable, there wasn't this overriding fear of like, oh my God, what's going to happen? So I think that's something just to highlight, that you really did all that work that you did really paid off. Not saying like birth is easy. Some people have that, but you had the support to help you through the challenge.
Absolutely. And I would by no means call my very precipitous or rapid birth easy, but nor would I call it. A lot of my friends had asked, like, how painful was it? Like, because I didn't have any pain medications and zero interventions. And what I ended up describing it as, I have a friend who's due the first week of August, and I was like, I don't even know that I would describe the sensation or the intensity of contractions as pain. Okay. I've never felt anything like that before to be able to call it something similar that I've ever felt. Like, honestly, what it felt like was like my back was opening up and my sacrum was opening. Like, your bones are moving.
They are. I'm like, they kind of are.
That's exactly, and that's what it feels like. And if you want to put pain as the label on it, sure, but it's just so intense. And if your bones don't really move in a short period of time ever, and in this situation, your baby is just kind of like opening
your body. It really, literally what it is, like your sacrum actually flares back, like it makes space. There's a student that emailed in yesterday, and her doctor saying, you're 34 weeks, and I don't think your body's going to be big enough. I think said your vagina's not going to be big enough to have this baby. And I'm like, we don't know that. And so I had I emailed back with a conversation like, that's why your pelvis can move. It's not a solid bone. It's 3 bones, and it's meant to expand. And literally the sacrum expands, not that the bone expands, but the space between the 2 innominate bones and sacrum create more space for your baby to descend. That's why birthing on your back can be a challenge, to get that baby out. You're literally taking space away. So I'm thrilled to hear that you were able to listen to your body and let it open.
Yeah, I was fairly committed and confident in my body's ability. Not to say that folks didn't say otherwise. My mother, my aunt, my grandmother all had C-sections for all of their children. And my grandmother had 3 kids. My mom had 2 kids. My aunt had 1 child. And I'm the first of my maternal line in, 3 generations to have a successful vaginal birth. But what I do think in talking with my mom and my grandmother and my aunt is that hospitals were, the shiny new and safe thing in the 50s. When my mom gave birth to me in the 80s, she said, C-sections were popular and like relieved pain and like put women out of their suffering. So that was really popular. And what she said to me, the reason that she didn't have a vaginal birth was because the doctor told her like her hips were too small. And one of the first things that my doula told me when we had our first prenatal visit was that she stuck her fist in between my sits bones and was like, oh, you definitely have room there. And that like built my confidence even more. She was like, this is already like fairly wide, 10 centimeters will be no problem. And I was like, a vote of confidence from somebody you trust is huge in helping you, or it was huge in helping me, become even more confident that like my body had the ability to do this.
And the fact, though, that you did have that family history on your back in a sense of, you probably heard it for years, kind of unpacking that, oh, my family has C-sections. That can really... I talk about in class, I think you might have been there for that one class. I'm like, homework, think about your family history and what you hear and how that influences your confidence. And then when I got really worked up about that email from my student that her doctor said that, because I was on the bike this morning, like angry about that. I'm like, I have to do a whole podcast about this. Because when you do trust someone and they diminish your confidence, how do you have that confidence if someone's, someone that you revere is like, no, I don't think you can do it? It's really hard to come back from that. So I'm thrilled to hear that you had that support. And I get angry when I hear others getting that support robbed from them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about it all the time about choosing your birth posse, but I do definitely like 100% agree with the fact that, really put some thought into it and also like feel empowered to be able to do that for yourself. There's nothing that says that you have to stick with the provider that you've been with. I was with my OBGYN from the time I got birth control when I was 20 till I got pregnant, or she confirmed that I was pregnant in my 6-week sonogram. So I was like 13 years with her. I liked her, but I didn't trust her with this experience that I had already decided that like I, revered, and like she didn't we didn't see eye to eye on the, the way that birth could be
philosophies.
Yeah, the birth philosophy. She was very much about like keeping me safe and healthy, which I appreciated, but I also had the confidence that I could make those decisions or to choose people who would also feel or be in line with the philosophies that I had.
And then it just allows you to, when you're in labor, just go with it instead of have to kind of keep one ear on like what's being said, what's going on. Like that's not your job as a laboring person.
Your focus is only on
that's why
the road in front of you.
Yeah, that's why, again, one of my weird sayings, that's why your posse has to circle the wagons around the birthing person, so they don't have to think about what's going on outside that circle. Like they shouldn't, because that can cause labor to stall a bit. If you're, instead of focusing on breathing and moving and going internal, if you're thinking, well, what's going on? What are they asking? What might I have to do? What might I have to navigate through? So it's great that you found the people that you could trust, and then you opened up and you did it. So did anything surprise you about your birth experience that you're just like, I guess maybe how quick it was? I'm answering that for you.
So I had heard about precipitous labor because a prenatal massage therapist had a precipitous labor and shared that experience with me. And I was like, wow, that sounds crazy. So I knew that it was possible. And it was like, 2 pages in the birth partner book that Stephen had read. And he's like, yeah, but they don't focus on that being, or something that was like very likely to happen. So I think the fact that, I went from experiencing no contractions straight into active labor was very surprising. I think what was also surprising to me was my inability to move. I generally feel like I have control over my body. And that was something that I really didn't have control over. I could not get myself off the floor. I could not get myself out of the tub. There was just so much other sensation that was taking over that, like, I feel like my other like bodily modalities, like, couldn't, be engaged because everything was focusing on pushing the baby out. So it made 100% sense, but that was also something that, like, I don't think that wasn't something that any of my friends were like, you won't be able to move because you'll be having such intense sensations. That was surprising. Other than that, I think that was it.
I mean, that's a lot. I think it's precipitous births is a lot.
Yeah. I was really hoping for, like, pain management relief from my doula, and just the fact that it went so fast. Like, I didn't get to experience that. But she was amazing during and after. So for everything that you could prepare for, those were the 2 or 3 surprising things for me.
What did you learn about yourself having gone through this experience?
It's funny you asked that because right after birth, I'm not sure if nobody shared this with me. Like, right after birth, like, I was shaking for like 30 minutes. I think, like, when people tell you that birth is a sort of trauma that your body goes through, I think that was very much apparent to me when I didn't have control of what my body was doing afterwards. But for those 30 minutes, I literally was in shock and, like, repeatedly had said to everybody in the room, like, what just happened? Like, I couldn't grasp the magnitude of the last 3.5 hours. But what I learned is that, like I said, that I had some semblance of before, was that women are amazing. Your body is amazing. Like, this is a super, like, woman type power to be able to birth a human. And I think what I learned is that, in fact, is true. As much as people told me that, and as much as I believed it, I didn't know it until I gave birth to my daughter.
Yeah, one of our students said she works a lot with men, and she felt like a very male-dominated area, and she kind of felt badly about pregnancy, kind of hiding it. And then after she had her baby, she's like, this is my superpower. She's like, they can't do this, but I can. And I think that we can own that. I think that's something really important. It's not something we have to ask forgiveness for or apologize for. But it's pretty amazing what the human body can do. Like, we talk about that in class, like, your baby is growing and you're just kind of there witnessing it. And, like, the body is just so smart.
Absolutely. And I think the pride that I have is something, like, that I think I learned to have, right? The pride that I have to have had birth my child, and also to be a mom, like, that doesn't leave you ever. And I think that's one of the biggest things that, like, was eye-opening to me. And that I learned about myself. I learned that I can be proud of myself for a natural process that, like, all women go through, but I didn't think I'd have such deep pride and reverence, and also gratitude for all of the people who supported me throughout it.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, let's talk about, you said about being the mom. I guess that's something that will forever be one of your many titles. How has postpartum been?
It's been great. For the primary reason that I did do a lot of research up front and prepared for postpartum a lot. My acupuncturist had introduced the Chinese tradition of sitting in the month to me very early on as an option to really focus and take time for my body to heal. So I had spent some time interviewing women, or Chinese women, who practice the traditional Chinese medicine approach to what they call sitting in the month, or also known as confinement, which is not very different from quarantine. So I actually have, or my husband and I have I don't know what the right translation would be for her, but I describe her as a live-in nanny to some friends, but she is a licensed acupuncturist. She is an herbalist. She, in her family, runs the deep tradition of practicing sitting in the month. And so her aunts have had several women that they've helped heal through the 30 days after postpartum. And she's also kind of been like a new parent coach to us. So, teaching us how to change diapers, how to soothe, how to, read cries, differences in our daughter's cries for being hungry or being uncomfortable because of gas, or needing to change a diaper. So I prepared a lot for postpartum. Her name is Lily. We have Lily living with us we had her living with us for the first 30 days. She, like I mentioned, is an herbalist, so has been very focused on my body's healing, and cooking foods that are helpful to, what focused on the first week was detoxifying my body, the second week repairing my body, and the third and fourth weeks have been focusing on rejuvenating my body through traditional Chinese medicine practices, with herbs, with specific worming foods for the body as well. So it's kind of been incredible.
It really sounds absolutely. I mean, I'm listening to this and like, we had a postpartum doula, did a lot of that, but I mean, the fact that you had someone live in who could do like I had a moment of like a little jealousy. I'm like, she has someone that can do acupuncture just at home. Yeah. Like there was that little bit I wish, but it's just, I wish that kind of support is available to everyone, because it's so important to honor that transition out.
Absolutely.
I know in the birthing from within methodology, which I studied a lot, they talk about that labyrinth going into the birth and is just as much coming out. And that path needs to be honored, the rejuvenating, the detoxifying. And I loved hearing that. I loved hearing that you did that and you honored that, because so many times we are back up and running. Like I look at my first birth and I was just stupid. I was just so quick and ready to take it all on and didn't slow down. And
well, it's hard not to feel that way immediately after, because your like for me, like my hormones were like, I don't know if they were raging or they were depleted or what was happening in my body.
They were going back and forth, yeah.
Yeah, because I felt like Superwoman. I felt like I could do all the things, right? You got adrenaline running. Like I should clean the sheets. I should clean the tub. I absolutely felt those things. And so do not fault any women who feel like that after, because I was there and when I had those thoughts, like there was somebody there to be like, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. Like your body was just opened. It should
help it close.
It should be closed. You don't want to get on your hands and knees and spread some more, just like, just gentle reminders like that, have been so helpful. And she's been incredible in terms of, reminding me to honor the process and honor my body and also, being empathetic in that, like, it's not easy. There are very traditional practices of, not being exposed to water. So like not washing your hair, not taking a shower, not cleaning dishes,
because not
touching wet laundry, not just like several things.
So you don't do sitz baths, because I was taught to do sitz baths after to help your perineum heal. So it's like, I guess you didn't do that.
So the only exposure to water that I can have is if the water's been treated with herbs.
Yeah, it was treated with herbs.
To be transitioned to a warming quality. So I do have like a Frida Perry bottle that's full of like a warm herbal, liquid that I did use for the first week. But it's mainly been a lot of focusing on like keeping my hips and my legs as least spread as possible. So not sitting on my sits bones to like spread too much. So doing a lot of like lying. So the
Sounds really
practice
lovely.
of like sitting in or lying in. And also like the foods that she's been cooking have helped my milk supply a lot. That's also something that like I was surprised by in postpartum, like, you know, milk doesn't start flowing out of nowhere, right? And so, and also your baby has to learn to latch and you need to learn to work with them. And that was a learning process for us as well, like it is for all women. But that's something that like that wasn't really covered in my breastfeeding class, in the sense that like, you know, there will be a period of time where you both have to learn to get used to each other. Your baby just came out of the womb being fed through an umbilical cord and needs to learn how to use her
Mouth and
mouth to
tongue,
latch.
yeah.
Exactly. And that like I need to learn how to get into a comfortable position, because holding stress in my upper body is not going to, you know, help the milk supply or just like ease the process for either of us. Those are big things that I learned and was frankly like, you know, self-conscious and like stressed and scared about, because I was like, all the things that they talk about, like, is she getting enough? Is she losing weight? You know, it's hard to not get in those cycles and not feel personally responsible for, you know, the livelihood of your baby.
I'm fascinated by what you just shared, and I'm thrilled that you did share that, because I think it can be inspiring for others to take some of those practices. I actually want to have a podcast on that. I'm going to reach out to you later for her information.
Oh, absolutely. I was talking to her and I was like, are you comfortable with me sharing this on a podcast? And she's like, absolutely.
Well, then I'm going to reach out to her.
Yeah.
But I just think it's so valuable. And I really commend you for listening to someone. Because as my husband often tells me, he's like, I could have told you those things, but you probably wouldn't listen. The fact that you had those kind of superpower things, like, I want to do this. And someone's like, maybe not. And you're like, okay. You know, I think that also takes a lot. You know, it can take a lot of self-control not to kind of be like, screw you, I'm going to do this. Well,
when you're like, when you're working, when knowing that I made a conscious decision to do this, like I'm investing 30 days into like, or the golden period is what a lot of cultures call it. And I think in Indian cultures, I listened to your podcast with Kimberly Johnson and also read the 4th trimester. And she references a lot of these practices in other cultures in terms of healing and not being isolated and being surrounded by, you know, women either in the family or in your community. That was a lot of some of the reading that I did to lead me down the path of deciding to do this.
I think it's amazing.
Honestly,
I think it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, because honestly, like if you're going to invest in, you know, your own healing, not listening to the person who's telling you not to do something, like I had like all of those feelings too. I was like, but it's my house and like I can do laundry and I can do all these things, but like her gentle reminders to say like, I am here for your healing first and foremost. Is huge. Like she's still here. It hasn't even been 30 days.
I think you really had such respect for those 30 days that it helped you when you had that urge, like, but it's my house. And I mean, that's a whole nother conversation about the respect of postpartum in our culture. But the fact that that's part of the Chinese culture, it's part, you know, and you chose to honor that. I just love hearing it. And I hope that other people hear this can feel inspired to reflect on self-care. And I know the word self-care gets so overused, but it's such a healing part. Like you just said, everything was open. Like the way you described labor, your back opened, your body opened, your bones opened, and then it has to have the same honor to bring it back in.
Right. Absolutely.
I love that you shared that. Thank you.
Oh, I'm happy to share it. And at first I was a little bit hesitant because some people already have preconceived, or some people don't know what sitting in the month or confinement is. Some people have preconceived notions by doing Google searches. There's a lot of, I would say there's not traditional Western research done on it. So there's not stats and facts to back everything up. But if you're looking for a personal experience or anecdotal or anything like that, I'm happy to share what the experience has been like for me. I would also say that this is probably the most modern confinement experience that you'll find or read about or hear about, because everybody has a different take. Different regions of China practice differently. In places like China, Singapore, Taiwan, they have confinement centers where women can actually go for the 30 days and be taken care of with their infant and, be fed and treated.
I think they have that in Israel. I feel, if I'm remembering this correctly, someone told me they have that in Israel too. And I'm like, well, that just sounds fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. And so it is practiced in other parts of the world. I think it's a lot less common in the States or in any Western cultures.
I think that's a shame. But that's another whole conversation. All right, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, what advice do you wish you had heard before you had your baby? We'll be right back.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Okay, so what advice do you wish you had heard before you had your little person?
I think I mentioned if you do decide to go the breastfeeding route, I think I mentioned that like your baby instinctually knows how to feed, but I think getting used to each other is something that I wish I learned. I generally am a calm person. I don't really get too worked up or try to like manage my stress as much as I can. And I had like a total meltdown on day 5 when I was like, this is so hard. And also just like took it personally in a way that I don't know that like it's meant to be. Obviously, like my baby doesn't dislike my boob. But I think like, being aware that it takes time for everybody to get used to breastfeeding is natural, and it's okay. And, I think it's also hard for the first 5 days. And that's sometimes when folks say it's too hard, it's too stressful, we'll do formula or I'll just pump instead. But sticking to it is also very rewarding and comforting for your baby. So I wish somebody told me that.
That's good.
That was something.
One more question before I start to wrap up. What would be one piece of advice you would like to offer new or expectant parents, different from what you would wish you'd heard?
Advice. I also mentioned this before, but I want all expectant parents to feel empowered about their birth choices. Home birth isn't for everybody. Neither is a birthing center. However, if you are unhappy or uncomfortable with the way that your provider is talking to you or the suggestions they're making, don't hesitate to seek out a second opinion regardless of whatever route you go down. There are several providers where you can, gather second opinions and so many folks that you could potentially feel comfortable with. Like I'd like all expectant and new parents to have a positive birth experience and to really be surrounded by people that they trust. I think it's easy to fall into, listening to an authority type figure, and doctors can be perceived as that. But that's not to say that their word is the final word. It's your birth, your body, and your baby. And you've got, the choices and the power and the freedom to make those choices that are best for yourself.
Yes to everything. Yes. Yeah, no, you know how I feel about autonomy. And And sometimes it's hard to take that autonomy and agency of your body. So I just love anyone that can share that information. The more other people hear it, I think it can start to creep in, because it's hard. A lot of times you do put doctors on a pedestal and we're like, yes, whatever you say. And it's a relationship, between, you hire them for their medical support, but it doesn't mean that's the final word. So it should be a conversation. So thank you. Yes, yes, yes. Your body, your breath, your baby, your experience. That's all the things we talk about in class. Oh, Lina, this has been so fantastic. I really wanted, as soon as I thought, I'm like, is it too early to reach out to her?
Thankfully, I have 4 hands or 2 sets of hands to help right now. So there hasn't been a screaming baby in the hour that
I know. That's actually quite impressive. I was like, at one point, I was like, wait, where is her child? I don't hear it. This has been truly a joy. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your openness to share. I think whenever we can put positive birth stories, even those that have intense moments, especially those that have intense moments, to see that you get to the other side and that it's not pummeling you. So thank you for your bravery, your honesty, and your experience. I really, really appreciated this.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure. Thanks so much. This is like I said, been one of the first adult interactions I've had since birth. And so I so welcomed it and was excited to hear from you.
Thank you. All right, be well.
This has been an episode of Yoga Birth Babies, produced by Prenatal Yoga Center. You can catch us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope. I'm Deb Flaschenberg. Thanks for listening.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.